Hi everyone, it's Neve here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be doing a Scrap FX project, creating a butterfly queen doll using some of their new products. So this doll was inspired by this chipboard piece that I found, which is, I think it's called a mermaid's bodice or a mermaid's dress. And it's got lots of different shells and so on it. It's quite fine and very detailed. But as soon as I saw it, I just immediately thought back to all the art dolls I love making. I thought that would be a great body for it. So to help strengthen the chipboard itself, I'm going in with some black chipboard and, well, it's not really chipboard, it's thick cardboard. It's a little bit easier to cut than chipboard. And I'm cutting out the shape of the bodice. So I've got something to rest it upon and it gives the rest of the body support, because this is going to be a freestanding 3D doll, so it needs a little bit more support than just having the chipboard piece itself. Once I've finished doing that, I'm going to use the face that I've got here and mount that onto the cardboard as well. The face that I've got is a face that I drew myself and scanned. It was in my journal. It was a piece that I drew for a class, and I decided that I really liked it, so I was going to scan it, so I had a copy of it to use. So it was really handy for this because it's just sort of the right size to work for the body. When I'd done that, I then needed to emboss all the pieces that I was going to have. So a tip for embossing really fine chipboard like this is to use your acrylic block to press into the ink pad. It means that you're not using your fingers to bend in it where it might crease or crack. So if you're using something large and flat over the top, it's less likely to bend and break. So I'm using some of the new Wow embossing powder, which I really liked. It's got a glitter in it, but unfortunately because it's got the glitter in it, it was a little bit translucent, and I actually wanted some deeper color in it. So I went back in with the Ranger Mixed Media powder in the lime green just to give a little bit more depth. You could still see some of the glitter come up through, but I just had a little bit more color on it, which is what I wanted in the end. Some of the holes in the detail of the shells had filled in, so just with a craft knife I'm pushing that out while it's still warm. You can remove some embossing powder while it's still warm. Then I'm going in with these, I called them butterfly wings. They're probably actually dragonfly wings to be perfectly honest, but I really like them anyway. And just doing some black on this because I wanted to create a sort of stained glass effect with that. So again, just like the other chipboard piece, I'm using my acrylic block just to press them in and then heating them up. And I'm only doing one coat of this. This is Wow Embossing black as well, so it's quite glossy thick black. The final thing that I'm going to do is I've got this cute set of crowns from Scrap FX as well, and again they're just perfect for the shape of her head, or the size of her head, sorry, so it actually fitted in really well. So I'm just doing that in gold because everyone needs a gold crown in their life. Once I've finished with my embossing, then I could get on to sort of assembling the whole piece together. So once I cleaned down, I put my bodice down. I wanted to put some of this new rice paper. So this is a new product that Scrap FX has been doing, where it's printed collages onto rice paper. I was going to say collage paper. And basically it's a great product to use. You can use it like you do the collage tissues and put it onto your art journal pages and it melts away. In this case, I'm not doing that. I'm just using it as a printed paper. If you didn't have access to this, obviously you could use scrapbook papers or something similar to get the same effect. I'm just putting some pattern underneath the bodice and then using some scissors to trim out around it. So you'll notice I'm using a combination of my scissors. These are the Tim Holtz haberdashery scissors, which have got the straight edge rather than serrated edge, and I prefer them particularly for fussy cutting. They're the small ones, so they're really handy for doing small detail work. I'm also using my craft knife because I am a craft knife girl. I was going to say I grew up using them, but for the beginning of my craft life, when I started out, that was basically all I used. So I'm pretty adept at using them. I know some people get a little bit nervous when they definitely see me using it, but when they think about using them themselves. So I'm now trying to line up the bodice with the base that I'd created. Because it is so fine and I'd glued it down, you may get everything slightly out of whack, which is where the craft knife is really handy. So you saw me just change the blade there, which is really important, particularly if you're cutting thick card, and it just means you can get really fine cuts and cut up against the edges, which is really useful. These little bits I'm trying to cut off now would have been really difficult to try and do with a pair of scissors. So once I've finished trimming up my piece, I'm going to then work out where it is on my head and how I'm going to attach it. Sorry, I had mental blank there for a second. You saw me sort of measure it out before, so I need to work out where I'm going to have to cut off her shoulders, because obviously her shoulders are wider than the bodice itself. And as you may have noticed, I don't have arms or legs. So in my little world of, I don't know, whimsy, I've decided that her arms are her wings and her legs are going to be some wooden skewers that I get added onto later. So I'm just adding the wings onto the collage paper too, trying to select pieces that have got bits of colour, again sort of like a butterfly wing where you've got those different splashes of colour sort of spread out all over it. For the wings, I'm not putting any backing on them. I'm happy just to have them with just the rice paper on it. If you wanted to have everything sort of blend seamlessly together, you could certainly mount them on the black as well. Just be aware that it might make everything very heavy though, because you don't have very much to stick your wings down with. So the heavier you make them, the harder it's going to be to have them sticking without any additional support. So you can sort of see how it's all going together now. Now when I did this, I suddenly realized that that dress, in proportion to everything else, was going to be incredibly short, so I needed to do something to lengthen her dress. But first of all, I'm just gluing everything together. The glue I'm using is the Gina K Connect glue. I presume it's a type of PVA, but it dries clear and it dries really quickly, and it's got a really good grip, and most everything I've put it on, there's never been a problem with it. It dries super quick and clear, and it grips nearly everything. You saw me fiddling around with some fabric there. I was sort of working out how to do an underskirt, and I sort of had this mermaidy, butterfly theme going in my head, which is why I chose the tie-dyed silk that I had, but it just didn't really work. So while I was kind of thinking about what I wanted to do, I'm gluing on the wings. Now instead of using glue to do this, I'm actually using that really tacky double-sided sticky tape. This stuff's amazing, and it's great for sticking down detail pieces that you don't have much space to glue things down, but you need it to be really sticky. So I like the edge of the wings. If you didn't have access to this, hot glue gun would work, or maybe an extra sticky glue dot might do the job as well, but just make sure you've got something that's going to stick everything in place. So you can see me sort of really pushing it together to make sure it's all staying in place. So while I was doing this, I realized that we had another piece of the rice paper that I got from Scrap FX had these pen nibs on it. And I thought they made great underskirt, and it just so happened that they fitted perfectly with the skirt to make everything go together. So I'm going in and sort of cutting out this little skirt shape, and then I'll glue it down. Again, just using the glue that I've been using for everything else to glue it down. I'm not worried about putting a backing on this either, because I want it to sort of be soft and flowy and ethereal underneath. So once I've finished my doll, I need to make a stand for it. So this is just a 50 cents gift box from my local $2 shop, and the foam that you can see me putting in is the magic eraser foam that you get. Again, I got it from my $2 shop for $2. The reason I'm putting the foam in is because if I just put the holes into the box, everything would shift around and eventually it would become loose. And also because the box would be empty, it's less stable. So by putting the foam in, it makes it more stable. It makes the skewers stay exactly where I want them to, not going to move or shift around. So it's worthwhile putting something in. If you don't have access to that foam, or if it's too expensive, if you've got a flower block, Florist Oasis, I think is what it's called, you could use that instead, or maybe a sponge might work, just something that you can sort of balance your box with. I'm also colouring the skewers in once I cut them down to size, because I don't like having the wood poking out. I like to just have it black so it kind of blends into the background. And I'm using the extra sticky tape to do this too, because again, there's not much surface area for it to stick to, so I want to make sure it's secure. Again, you could possibly use the glue gun with that. However, because the bottom of this skirt is the rice paper, the glue gun may actually come through. So using a dry adhesive like the double-sided tape is probably more handy. So I'm just using an awl to punch the 2 holes in. And I decided I needed to paint my box or do something with my box. So instead of painting it, because I had these lovely scraps of the collage tissue around, I'm using that instead. So I've stuck it down using matte gel medium, and basically all I'm doing is putting some underneath and then going over the top and gluing it all down. Now the lovely thing about the collage tissues is they sort of melt into each other and go a little bit translucent, so you can overlay them, and when you overlay it you can kind of see some of the patterns from underneath coming through. So you just get this beautiful layered effect happening. And it's super simple to do, you know, there's no cutting, I'm just tearing and placing with some glue. Depending on how finished you want your box to be, in the past I have actually covered up the foam underneath so you don't see that. In this case I didn't, because I knew where it was going to sit in my studio. I wasn't going to see the back and I wasn't going to see the underneath of my doll, so I was happy to leave those. But if you know it's something that's going to be picked up and looked at and so on, you might want to finish off the back, or just sort of cover over the bits like the back of the skewers, for example. You might want to finish off the bottom of the box as well. It's totally up to you. I got a little bit punch happy with my holes and I couldn't find them again after I put the collage tissue on, so I had to re-punch the holes and put my 2 skewers in. And you can see how securely that's sitting, it's not moving. The final thing I did to finish off this box was to put on the quote, "Use your wings," because I just thought it really fitted with it. So here's a close-up of the final piece. It's lots of fun to do, and doing little dolls like this really forces you to think outside the box and to use things together that you wouldn't actually imagine that you would use together. You know, those pen nibs with the butterfly, with the mermaid bodice, aren't things that would naturally go together, but you can have lots of fun with them when you start to use your imagination. And these are great little gifts to give to someone, particularly someone creative. They can sit them on their desk or in their studio and just, you know, make them happy when they look at them. So thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see some more, and have a look at the videos on the left hand side to see some others in the Scrap FX YouTube channel that might interest you. Until next time, bye for now.